Welcome back to Alternative I Beyond the File, where we take a deeper look at the stories that are often left in the shadows. I'm your host, Melissa Phelan, and today's conversation is one that may be difficult for many, but it's an important one. We're exploring the reality of child sexual assault from a perspective that's too often overlooked: the male experience. Joining me is Nick Middaugh, an advocate, author, and someone who has turned his own lived experience into a mission to help others. Nick is the author of Suffering in Silence, a powerful account of his journey, and he spent the last decade serving others through civil service and supporting men in recovery as a recovering alcoholic himself. He's also a father, a devoted husband, and someone grounded in resilience. From his roots in rural Michigan to the work that he does today, helping other men find their way forward. This episode isn't easy, but it's real, it's necessary, and it's about breaking silence. Let's go beyond the file.
Thank you so much for joining me. I think you're an incredible person. Have much like a lot of our guests, I always say this, but I'm like, you guys have so much to offer. So that's why I select you. I don't know, it's so weird to say, but I'm being very selective about who we bring on, especially in our first season.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I am exceedingly average in everything that I do. But I appreciate it, and yeah, I'm just stoked to be here.
Yeah, well, I think you're a humble person. I think that we all deep down, we all have superpowers and maybe they're
Mm,
untapped. So I think being in the right circles with the right people can really influence a lot in our lives. And I've seen that you've made quite a few rounds. You've done a lot of public appearances. Can you tell me, just to kind of introduce our audience to who you are present day? What are you up to?
sure, yeah. So as it stands right now, I'm a writer for a pretty awesome tactical equipment company called Rebels Raiders. I write all the blogs. We interview people. We talk about nerdy stuff like the Fallout series. I did a piece on that, the TV show. I mean, anything from interviewing giants like Ronnie Atkins in the 2A community. So that's one thing I got going on. The other thing, what I'm most passionate about would be the public advocacy work. So I wrote a book. It's called Suffering in Silence. It's meant to be an awareness piece and kind of a resource for other dudes that have been through child sexual abuse, because not a whole lot of dudes talk about that. So that's another kind of, what do they call it? Like a stake in the fire. Yeah, so I also write over at Character is Destiny. That's like my most current up-to-date writing. And that is more heavily focused on mental health, addiction recovery, self-mastery. It's a lot of kind of modern-day stoicism without like the self-help TM like platitudes, I guess I like to say. That's out weekly. It's free unless you want like extra stuff. I'll be recording actual like audiobook format here pretty soon. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, I've just been on this like weird but very awesome and like humbling experience of being able to come out and kind of share my story, whether it's just the CSA or it's anything that came after. Mental health, addiction, recovery, alcoholism specifically, suicide awareness, like stuff like that. It's that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Those themes have been something that you've personally understood. And I think that's what makes you so powerful, if I may, because
Oh,
you've been through the experience, you've climbed these mountains. So when you came public, when you started to talk about your experiences, what was that like for you? What was that process like to be that bold, really? Because it takes quite a bit of certain characteristics that a lot of people don't have. So what was that like for you? What did you discover during that process?
yeah, it was very interesting because just to kind of give everybody like a timeline, the CSA occurred to me when I was a child. I carried it, not telling anybody ever for over 20 years. But then when I did finally kind of start disclosing, going to therapy, I did that about a year before my jump off point with like the book and going out to do softwood underbelly. So, and I say that because it's very quick, I think, when it comes down to discussing something as like severe and kind of stigmatized as that, like just really heavy stuff. But the first podcast I did was Cleared Hot Podcast. I got to meet one of my heroes, Andy Stumpf. Have been a listener for years. I mean, this is a guy like going out there to Montana. I remember watching his podcast like several years ago when I was still like drunk all the time and out of shape and like in the pits of mental health, just decline and spiral. So going out there to tell my story and sit down with him, somebody who I think like influenced me a lot. It was very surreal, really cathartic in a way, able to share the story with people and try to put a voice to a lot of dudes that are just voiceless. It was interesting. And I went immediately from that to Softwood Underbelly, which, if people don't know about it, it's this massive YouTube channel run by Mark Laeta. I'm not sure if I'm saying his last name right, and I do that, and that's out in Los Angeles. So like I'm on the plane to go to Los Angeles. And the entire time, like, I can't believe that this is real because I'm just some like farm boy from the middle of rural Michigan. Like, and here I've managed to get sober and I've lost some weight. Like back in those days, I was still a little bit heavier, wrote a book, did these things. And now I'm going to go to this dude with a massive YouTube channel and like go talk about this stuff. It was really, like the experience was awesome. He's a good dude behind the camera, like just straight up to this day supports me, answers my dumb questions. But then coming back, once it got posted, there are 2 clips of me talking about what went down in the closet. And they got like over 10 million views combined or something like that on Facebook, which is, it's very, and I don't want to sound like woe is me. There's 10 million people that watch like this horrible aspect of my life. It's not really what I'm getting at, but it's an interesting mental health challenge, I think, that a lot of people don't discuss on this end of disclosure, because like going out and sharing the story, being an advocate, great, awesome. I think a lot of dudes should go and do this because it's just what we require to make change. But I was like not ready for that level of exposure.
Right.
And it was just very surreal, and it put me in an interesting spot, which I don't think is really talked about. And it's not necessarily from a place of ego or like vanity or anything like that, but it's like, it was good overall. I mean, it was awesome, but it gave me more challenges than I thought, like when you initially start on a path talking about this kind of topic. I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of like long-winded, but
No, I mean, I think it's really great for people to understand where you have taken yourself as far as where we come from, right? As Carrie
mm,
Drobin, my co-host, she calls it your origin story and what
mm,
brings you to where you are today, right? The culmination of all your experiences. And I think it's very interesting because earlier you mentioned that it kind of just happened quickly, right? Like something was obviously working through you and your inner self, your highest self, whatever it is guiding you toward where you are now. And I think that,
mm,
if I may, I mean, I think 10 million views perhaps really speaks to how many people needed that message that could relate to that message. And especially in a system where men are not encouraged to talk about this. And think about how many people are seeking the stories of others so that they don't feel alone. And that's what you provided, even if you don't realize it. There's not that many people that are going to sit and engage in that kind of material unless they can really understand it. And so
mm.
that's where I believe those numbers comes from. And I hope that that can help you in maybe framing that, because it's all about how we frame things, right? I think our mindset and our weaknesses, and we all have them. And especially when it's tied to trauma, right? It's rooted in this trauma that you had as a child. And I know that you shared a lot about that online, so I don't necessarily want to take you through that. I want to focus on how you've managed to thrive in your life. You are constantly raising the bar. Where does that come from?
Certainly trying to. It's interesting. I think some of it, I have 3 kids, and just to make a point real quick too, because I was reading some of my colleagues' work in prep to come on here because I haven't talked about him enough. And I made this friend, he's a PhD candidate and research fellow over at Griffith University, Australia. His name's Paul Wiles, and he regularly gets published in the like massive social work journal called Trauma, Violence, and Abuse, part of Sage Publishing. For anybody that wants to go out there, he's put out some really good stuff, really cutting edge stuff. And I bring that up because on the point of not enough men coming out to talk about this, in the UK, they didn't make like male rape a um, up until 1994, it was called buggery, and it was like a lesser offense. So they almost like didn't recognize that it was happening, and it took them up until then. But not to sidetrack, but I think it's important because that's part of how like the institutional ecosystem that we interface with, the kind of challenges it brings to people breaking their silence. But in any case, evolving, trying to do better, changing things up. So I have 3 kids, and I'm very blessed to have them in my in my life, not just my family. That's kind of funny, but
Yes, you are there.
Right, I'm very blessed that, anyways, they, as a dad, like, there's so much pressure, and maybe I think I'm not unique in this, but, like, there's the pressure to provide, and, as somebody who made a lot of mistakes as a father, when I look at my 8-year-old, I mean, I grew up with him. We had him when I was 21 years old to my wife's 20, and it has been I think a lot of that drive stems from that place. Because if you look at my resume, like, I'm not necessarily married to any of these jobs that I had. It was all kind of in the same field, but it was okay. You get to a place, can I get a raise here? Is there any upward mobility? Oh, okay. I'm going to start going over here because they offer a higher pay rate. Like just constantly grinding it out to the point where, I was working as a federal contractor and making a decent wage. And a lot of that drive and a lot of that motivation comes from them. And in this pursuit, I have a little bit of that. So I pull out of that bag a little bit. And that kind of keeps me going, keeps me trying to reinvent myself. But then the other part of it is this pursuit has given me a purpose so much sweeter than any of the uniforms I ever wore. And that's not to say that, being a firefighter or being in corrections or doing anything that I did or anything beyond, like, because I was, again, exceedingly average in all those pursuits. It's not to say that that's not purposeful. It absolutely is. But getting an email from a mother who is telling me that because of what she listened to in my story, she was able to talk to her child, discover that they were being sexually abused, and get them out of that situation. I mean, that's everything. And
Yes.
to get messages from dudes that, like, maybe I haven't talked to them in a while. Some of them, I've had guys from high school reach out to me. I haven't talked to them in years. Like, you know what I mean? And I've had, or just complete people that I don't know that reach out and they say, like, dude, thank you for doing what you're doing. And to know that I'm making some kind of impact. Because when I started on this path, it was like, if just one person reads the book, if just one person sees the story, and whether they're suicidal or they're alcoholic or they had this happen to them as a kid and they're stuck in that silence and they hate themselves like I did or whatever it might be, if it just nudges them towards choosing to get help, choosing to speak out, choosing to put the drink down, choosing to lose the weight, whatever it is, then it's all worth it. And I've gotten far too, like, not too many. I don't want to say that. That's not right. But far more messages than in some respect I think I rightly deserve. But it's been just incredible to do this. So, like, yeah, hey, let's see if we can get on that show. Let's spread the message. Like, hey, let's see if we can go collaborate with, I put in this, like, New York Times opinion piece. That was like, me? What? Me? From rural Michigan? Yeah, great.
Incredible.
They have an
Yes.
awesome mission, right? They have an awesome mission. They got an awesome message out there. Phenomenal. And it's all moving the needle. And yeah, it's just that drive to just continue to try to do good with what I've got.
Yes, and a continuous deepening purpose. And purpose
Mhm.
really, somebody said this to me once in a cab of all places. He said, the root of suffering is that people don't have purpose. We all have suffering. We all
Mm.
have trauma to a degree, right? And really, when it's all relative, in an experience for people that are traumatized, they are recovering. Many of us are recovering from something. And so when we see people like you, it's inspiring. So you might say, oh, I got more messages than I deserve, but you're speaking to, I mean, we don't even know the statistics, but 1 in 3 men, 1 in 4 men in the world who have been through this. And these are all people that have had their souls crushed. And to see somebody with so much life and soul bringing it, dude, you should be proud of who you are. You should hold your head high.
Thank
And
you.
I think that it's a necessary path that you had to walk, not to say that anyone needed to walk that path, but in my own way, I can understand what purpose can bring to your life. Look at what we can accomplish as people, just as civilians, even. And you've worn many uniforms in your life, but you're saying that this hat that you're wearing now, I mean, the one you got on looks good today, but the hat that you're wearing is that you have a very important role, and you never know where this can take you in life, especially because there's so much to unpack for men that are going through this. And something that I love that I've seen so much over the last 5 years is so many men coming together on behalf of other men, giving men, they call it a safe space, but men don't feel safe. They don't to talk about this. Some of them will take it to their grave. Maybe they never told anyone. And it becomes a multi-generational issue. These are attitudes and traumas that I believe are passed down in DNA, in family dynamics. And there's so much that you're breaking a cycle of, I think, even through your own children, because you're willing to stand up and say, I own who I became and look at who I'm becoming. And that's what I like the most about you. And I see it in you. And I often, say this to my guests, I do see something in you. And when I see something in someone, I like to encourage them. I like to support them. That's just how I am. And so I think
Thank you.
I think there's so much power in that. And I see you really taking this far and in places that maybe you never imagined. I really do.
Yeah. I like to say that, kind of going back to that cleared hot story is these really were the delusions of like a drunken me. And there's a few things that you said that I really want to talk about a little bit because this idea of like purpose, somebody that I quote quite a bit, or at least reference, is Viktor Frankl. And so for anybody in the audience that doesn't know, he's this psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. He was in Auschwitz and a couple other camps. And he gave us in social work the meaning making logotherapy is what it's called. That's like the method of therapy basically, or the doctrine, I guess you could kind of say. And it's this notion that you need to find purpose in your struggle. You need to find purpose in the trauma. More importantly, you need to find purpose afterwards. Right? Like, what kind of meaning can we make of this situation? What kind of meaning am I going to pursue now? And that's been a big part of my own journey of overcoming everything that I've overcome is I can look at this whole situation, whether it's the childhood stuff, anything that's service related, my disability, and I can wear that victim hat real easy. I can feel real sorry for myself real easy. And when I first started this pursuit, when I look back at that interview with Softball and Underbelly, it's not as bad as I thought it was. But I was still coming out to be like, hey, I'm a male CSA survivor. Right or wrong in the broader scheme of things is just how I think about it. It's my opinion, right? When you wear that title of survivor, really you're still just tethered to the event. You're still tethered to the victimhood. It's like victim dressed up nicely. And it sounds harsh, but that's just what's been able to get me through and heal and find stability is like, hey, no, I'm not going to be identified by this shit that happened to me when I was a kid.
Right.
I'm not going to be identified, I'm not going to identify with any of it. I'm going to take accountability and I'm going to say, no, I'm not a survivor. I'm something else. What else can I be? What else can I earn? What am I going to do moving forward? Right? I can be an author. I can be a writer. I can be an advocate. I can be a better dad. Like whatever it is, wherever you choose to find purpose, better brother, better son, better employee, like whatever it might be, go earn something. And that's just how I've been navigating forward is finding that purpose. And I think you hit on something that's huge is like a lot of people just don't have that. They just don't, like they're struggling to find purpose and meaning in life. And for a time that was me. Like when I would get drunk every night, when I was still drinking or using another substance, like I felt like I was denied a lot of my purpose because of my disability. Like I couldn't get in the Army. That was like the biggest thing for me as a kid. That door shuts. Okay, I'm doing these other things, but I still just felt aimless. I still felt lost. I didn't have purpose. And it took me too long to really wake up and recognize, and it's easy once you're addicted to something, know that I can find purpose beyond this. I don't necessarily have to wear a uniform. I can find purpose in myself. I got purpose walking around every morning right in front of me, whether it's my wife or my kids, accountability and ownership, right? Like kind of how you brought up me owning who I became, owning what I am now. You can't change what you don't own.
Yes.
Like to break it down into really simple terms, right? So when I look at who I was as an alcoholic, that's still me. When I look at who I was as somebody who was mentally and emotionally abusive and verbally abusive, that's me. I'm different now, but that's me, right? I'm going to take accountability over that as a father, as a spouse, everything. Me when I'm walking around at 280 when I used to be fit. That's all me. And even though for the longest time, and I know it's difficult, and speaking from experience, when you go through the things that someone like me has gone through, it's easy to be like, oh, well, the childhood trauma made me this way. Responding to the calls that I've had made me this way. Rolling up on a dead kid in a car, this made me this way. Whatever it might be. It's really easy to slip into that and start making excuses for yourself. And all those feelings are valid. It's real.
Yes,
that
it
stuff
is.
sucks. It's so hard.
Yes.
When you have your autonomy violated, it's hard. It sucks. And for kids, to get into the data, like challenges your psychosocial development, your relationships, everything. It messes you up, grows you up too young. And I was at a point where I was just failing so hard to take any accountability over who I was, living this double standard. And what has gotten me sober, what has gotten me to where I am now, where I can do things like this, And it's awesome. And I never thought I'd be here doing this. It's crazy. Delusions of a drunken me is accountability. I got to take ownership. And it's hard because people are rightly going to be upset with you because you burned a lot of bridges. And it's not easy, but you're not going to find growth and comfort. You're just not, So I just think that's really important, like some of that stuff. And it's a lot of what I write about and what I talk about now is like finding a way to take ownership and accountability every day, moving forward, trying to reach the peak. Yeah.
That's an incredible thing to understand, and the escapism, you were living in that, and so many people live in escapism, whether it be their drug of choice, right? It could be anything at this
Mhm.
point, we know that. And so, not only are you able to speak to survivors of childhood sexual abuse or some of the other things that you've experienced, you could speak to all people that are in an escapist type of mindset. I don't know if that's the right word. They're not
Yeah.
willing to confront the truth because of how painful it is. People spend their whole lives avoiding themselves because ultimately,
Mhm.
when you can't even look in the mirror at who you become, we could all become the worst version of ourselves. And I like how you say you own that. You say, that's me. Something I wanted to touch on. So, from what we know about people, especially people that take the wrong path in life, and we're not just talking about verbal abuse, we're talking about they take this to a level that it becomes part of their integral nature, their psychology. And ultimately, it goes far beyond, it's sort of like they say it makes or breaks you. And in this world,
Mm.
you are either a victim or a victimizer in a lot of ways when we're talking about trauma. And so people that are made into monsters, right? That's a common theme in this season. What really drives the inner workings of a person? And every person processes trauma in a different way. But would you agree if you had not walked the path of therapy and processing this, that you would most likely still be living in maybe the worst version of yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. If I left it unaddressed, absolutely. And that's one of the ways that I don't look at any of these experiences, whether it was like what happened to me as a kid or what I chose to pursue as an adult. I don't think I would change any of it. And it sounds kind of crazy because who would not want to change that? But I've come around to seeing that all those things are what's enabled me to do this. And like touching back to like that sweeter purpose, like if I didn't have any of that, I mean, how would I be doing this? I
Correct.
probably wouldn't be. What kind of source material, not to be shallow or call it that, but seriously, what kind of backstory would I have to share? Would I even want to? Is part of the reason why I'm on this journey is because I always, as a kid, or when I was in high school, or when I was drunk and making all the wrong choices, like did some part of me want to be like, hey man, if you just get your act together, you could help other dudes like you. But yeah, no, to get back to your question, like, yeah, no, I think I would still be drunk. I think I would still be that monster that I became. It just is what it is. I mean, I had to go to therapy. I had to make all these leaps and bounds to reach some level of stasis and normalcy to
Mhm.
be a better human being. And the alternative, when you talk about living that kind of lifestyle, alcoholism, just the wells of mental health, like being down in them, all the choices I was making. I mean, I was drinking and driving every night. I remember one time coming home from the bar, I went to a work, wasn't an event, I went to the bar with some work friends. And, it was maybe 30, 40 minutes away from where we were living, and I had to take the freeway to get there, or get home rather. So we go to this bar, and I was gonna have just a couple drinks. Instead, I got just completely shithoused and decided that I was still gonna drive home. And I mean, when I tell you I was covering one eye the entire way going 75 down the freeway to get home and made it, like, I'm not exaggerating. And when you're living that kind of lifestyle, I mean, if I would probably still be the monster, except I'd probably have some DUIs, or I'd be in jail, or I'd be dead, or I'd be homeless. That's just where I was at and the type of life choices I was making.
Mhm.
So in order to get away from being that version of me, I had to get all of this out.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You gotta clean the wound out, or you
Hmm.
just keep
Hmm.
salting it over and over and over again. And that's what
Yeah.
it feels like when we're in that pain, because even if you're escaping, and I've escaped many things in my life too, and I had to explore what it meant to really face myself so I can relate in a lot of ways, and I think so many people can, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't be the mother that I am. And so I
Hmm.
understand in my own way the courage that it takes. It takes incredible courage, and nobody can take that from you. especially people that are too afraid to look at themselves. And how we view ourselves and how we feel about ourselves affects the way that we look at the entire world. Our lens
Mm,
is skewed, especially when we can use alcohol or whatever it is to try to avoid that. It's just the resalting over and over again. And then before you know it, you're shoving it down your own throat and you can't even breathe. And it's
mhm,
never makes anybody feel good about themselves. There's probably someone listening right now that is doing that. And it's
yep,
really hard for them, and I hope that they would make it this far to really dig deeper into it and to understand that there are people out here that care about your experience. We care about what you've been through. We care about where you're going. And to
yep,
let people know that they're not alone, to show up as the people we are today, I can show
mhm,
up and I could be a true representative of what a good friend should be, of what a good listener should be. And if they want to listen, they're going to get that message because we can't reach people that they don't want to be reached. And there are so many people that need to hear this because at all stages of life, there could be an 85-year-old
mhm.
man if finally the flip switches or the switch flips. And
I got you.
yeah, it's just so important because there are so many people, like I said, that can relate to this. And I think it's a
Mhm,
universal issue among people, especially with vulnerability with men. Men want to be seen. I'm a woman. I know what men want. I mean, from talking to them, especially having male friends and of all stages of life, everybody wants to
mhm,
be seen. But how are we supposed to see you if we don't know who you are and where you've
mhm.
been and what you struggle with? Your struggle
Yep,
matters. And people do give a fuck. Like, I do. I mean, I can say, and people are like, "Oh, well, you're a strange breed." And it's like, "No, I'm not." There's so many amazing people out here that are rising right now in 2026.
yep, yep.
And
Yeah, it's
so
so important. Yeah, I went on Beyond the Monsters, about a month ago, and we kinda hit on that a little bit. We were talking about, like, this period of my life where I had left this very kinetic job, and I was feeling like I left my team behind because I knew what they were going through every night. Um, this
Mhm.
very chaotic environment, and I was no longer there to support them and be a teammate. So, I was just in the pits of mental health, and I started kinda getting, like, a suicide plan because it's just where I was at even though, like, hey, to speak to where you can go, what you tell yourself you are, what's your opinion of you, your perspective of reality no, sorry, your perspective becomes your reality, right?
Yes.
So and I heard somebody else was saying, I can't remember who it was, but, your opinion of you, like, that's what you become, what the things you tell yourself.
Yes.
And everything that I was telling myself is like, "You're a piece of shit. You left your friends behind. You know what they're going through every night. You're this alcoholic. Look at you. You're just still a little bit overweight. Like, you don't deserve this family. Your son deserves a better father." Like, all of these things. And I'd gotten to a point where I had a plan and we happened to take a spontaneous trip to Florida. And I told myself, if I don't come back here with a different perspective, anything, then I'm just going to go do what I'm going to do. Fortunately, it was an awesome week, even though I was still drunk. And I hit up one of my friends, who's a good brother to me. His name's Julian, and just dumped on him like, dude, this is where I'm at. I know you've been in a similar spot. Like, dudes think and to talk shit about men, it's almost like we think we're unique or something. Like, we're really not. Like, it's just like, oh, have feeling and whatever. Okay. It's 2026. The whole men don't cry thing is like kind of done and over with,
It's
or the
bullshit.
real men cry. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I call these men and I can tell them, I can call Brian right now and be like, hey, Bubba, I love you, dude. Like,
Mhm.
this is what's going on today. And I'll be like, I love you too, bro. What's up? And that's just how
Right.
we talk to each other. And that's the community of men that I have now. And like, I took a couple of my buddies, fresh out of the military. Like, to be clear, I was never in, but they were, and they're fresh
Mhm.
out and they're having a hard time. And like, we take a trip up north. We live in Michigan. Like, that's the place to go is up north. Got a little cuddle land. It's beautiful and there's no electricity. I can't call that anything but like positive masculinity. Like, that's what a
Yes.
man should be. To be in a tribe with other dudes, real enough, whether you're crying in front of them, to get a hug, to tell them about your feelings, but also on the flip side of that, hey man, I notice you've been fucking up a little bit lately. What's going on, dude? Let's have some real conversation. Because you can't have one without the other. It's not like some kind of sob party. But anyways, I think it is really important. And I think you're right. There's a lot of dudes that are coming out now and talking about things, and it's great. Some of the toughest men that I know talk about these kind of things, and they
Yes,
do it
they
without
do.
ego and vanity, and they cry in front of the camera, and they are like, I mean, Seth Gell ran some ultra marathons. What's more like manly than that, or whatever, right? Like he's a monster,
Right.
but he'll go in front of the camera and he'll talk about things that most men don't talk about. So
Well, you're
yeah,
tackling cultural conditioning that has plagued men, if I may say it, and it still
hmm
does, because this is why things have gotten so shitty. Men and women are the problem. We're not holding each other to the right standards, especially in interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships. The standard has been be the worst version of yourself. It seems like this is the American culture. I mean, I love America, but we have a lot of work to do because you can fuck off in 6 directions, you can avoid your life, be in incognito mode full time, and that
hmm
is the way to be. And there is nobody to tell you that being a sociopath isn't the way to roll. We have to hold
right.
ourselves to a higher standard because wouldn't you agree that cultural conditioning is the problem? That this is why men can't face trauma?
Yeah. Yeah, it's those I mean, I grew up in the 90s and, like, early
Mhm.
2000s, and that was the like, I mean,
You just don't talk about these things.
yeah, you just don't. And the tenets of masculinity, like traditional masculinity or whatever, where you don't talk about your feelings, you work all day, it's just very authoritative and I would say stoic, but a lesser version than it. Like it just not communicative, unfeeling, not unfeeling because we know, hey, we're all feeling this shit, but hey, we're just not gonna talk about it. Like,
Right.
no, man. I agree. Yeah. No, it's definitely culture. And to hit on something, I think a lot of this like modern men versus women kind of divide that we see these days. I think we just don't there's not enough emphasis put on like, hey, we kind of need each other,
Right.
you know? Like, we're
Oh,
not
yeah.
supposed to fight like this. There's not supposed to be this massive divide.
And
And, like,
deception.
not to get yeah, and I'm not gonna get into politics or anything, but, like, we need to get back to a place where we can recognize that whether it's in a relationship or just in our culture, we both have roles to fill, and it's supposed to support each other. It's supposed to be approachable. It's supposed to be a lot more peaceful than it is right now.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It is definitely conditioning for sure.
When I think asked about separating an understanding of what trauma has done to you, maybe that you live in, you were describing these mental loops, and eventually that leads to suicide ideation because the mind is fragile. And especially when a child has been introduced to themes and all these things that affect our minds, right? I think it's great
Mhm.
that you talk about not only just being vulnerable with other men, but we have to keep each other in line. I think it's necessary. Some of the best people, I don't keep people around me that tell me what I want to hear. I keep people
Right.
around. Sometimes they push me a little too much, but at the end of the day, it's like, I wouldn't be here, if there wasn't that
Mhm.
challenge to think outside of my box. Hey, Melissa, you need to rethink this. You need to change your mindset. Because when you get alone in that cabin in the woods, so to speak, in your mind, you're isolated from any real truth. What do you think is really failing men within our system right now, especially people that have been through some shit?
Yeah. So to kind of get back to my friend Mr. Wiles, one of his articles, I'd love to give you a link to it so you can make it available to people because,
Please do.
particularly regarding CSA specific, that's what one of his papers is about. I'm blanking on the title. You guys will have it. Don't worry. Um, but uh, but yeah, no, it's so what he found this scoping review of all these studies about institutional specific child sexual abuse from the male perspective is that the there is a if you think of say like the church, right? So they found in institutions such as the church, whether it's school like team sports, any environment where you're kind of pulling away a child from their family in a structured environment like that, where you can kind of justify it. Rigid adherence to whatever the belief system is or like kind of the social doctrine is. So you think about sports like, oh, it's all for the betterment of the team above self, right? In the church, what are we there to do? We're there to worship God, right? So everything is kind of, in a way, I don't want to say maybe social pressure, but there's a social ecosystem there. Well, anyway, so what they found in the paper was predominantly in these institutional settings, it's mostly boys being sexually abused. I think it was something like 64%. They found like 20. official cases in the United States alone over the last couple decades where they investigated institutions for cases of child sexual abuse. And one of the barriers to a lot of those survivors of it speaking out was the fact that they wanted to bear witness. Hey, this happened to me from this church or this school where I was on a team to the community. They wanted justice. And a lot of times, a major barrier is you see whether it's the courts or the school or the institution itself pulling back to defend whoever the perpetrator was. And this is something that they found in their studies. Like, this is a major barrier. Like, these people aren't able to feel validated in their situations because, like, look at what the institution does afterwards. They found it troublesome to try to go up against the system like that. So, and that's just, it's a great read. There's a lot of awesome data packed in there. He was gracious enough to send me a couple copies, but
Good.
yeah, no, it's a really good read. I can't recommend it enough. But that's very real. And something that I have found, a little bit of inside baseball on like my situation specifically, is, the other family, the other kid is still out there, right? And I've made it clear from the start, like, I don't want anything from them. I don't want anything from him. I don't hate him. Can't. There's only victims in that closet, save
Right.
whoever was doing things to him that he perpetuated onto me. But around the community that I'm from, there's really, save a few people who approach me from like high school, like, it's a very different vibe going on. At least I feel like with when I'm interacting with people that I used to know. It's either their support or I'm almost seen as somehow targeting them. And it's really unfortunate. It's almost been a barrier in its own right for me because that's not what I'm trying to do at all. It's not about him. It's not even really about me. It's about the issue. We need more people speaking up. This is happening to boys at a rate of 1 in 6 to 1 in 4. The average reticence, like that 80-year-old that you kind of mentioned, like, yeah, the average reticence period from abuse to disclosure for dudes is 20 years, if at all. And everything that Wiles is pointing to and everything in the data that I've done and the literature reviews that I presented at universities, like, it all points to that, like this massive black mass in the data of underreporting.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'm not going to sell it as easy. And I'm not saying that everybody has to go and do what I have done. I won't say that this is particularly hard. I'm sitting in front of a laptop and talking on these shows. I can't sit there and be like, oh, this is such an arduous path. It has its own struggles, but disclosure to a therapist, to a friend, to a loved one is not easy. And I'm not going to sell it as anything other than that. Like, it's just not easy. It's
Right.
worth it. It will give you growth. It will also bring more challenges that you have to work through. So whether you were abused in an institution or outside of one, like, you're going to have struggle. You're going to have challenge. It's going to alter how people see you in good ways and bad ways. You can't control that. The only thing you can control is yourself and your response to those circumstances and whatever happened to you before or whatever you did before, but it's worth it. So
It
I don't
is.
know. I feel like I got a little bit off track with your question there,
No,
but
truly you didn't, because you're hitting the nail on the head. Understanding the psychological makeup of people, not being believed is the worst part of it.
yes,
And then being
yes.
gaslit, then you start to gaslight yourself. It becomes characteristic. And so what happens
Mhm.
when someone is not believed, and so many people can relate to this because I know there's so many people who have tried to talk about it and nobody made it easy on them. Nobody's told them that, it wasn't a safe space. Maybe they really did. They told a parent,
Mm,
they told a brother, and then they got thrown under the bus by their own family. When we're talking about family dynamics,
mm,
we're talking about support systems or lack thereof, then the attitudes start to shift. And it's just so scary to see that for people because we believe you. I take it personally because we're both parents. We're
mhm.
setting the groundwork for our children's lives. If we just keep looking the other way and expecting someone else to come up with the solution, well, therein lies the problem. You need to start
Yep.
believing people. You need to be brave enough to look at yourself when you're judging another person for telling their story. Just like, the
Mhm.
attitudes maybe people might have towards you, that is a reflection of themselves. They don't want to face whatever it is in their life that
Yep.
broke them or makes them feel broken. It's just so easy. It's just so easy to escape, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, and that's really how I look at it is I don't wanna sound any kind of way, but to be completely frank, and I'll preface this with, I wrote a little bit about recently understanding the difference between constructive criticism, overt negativity, and identifying who you are being vulnerable with, who you running that number, it should probably be few. People that you actually, like, you let down the wall and you allow them to hold emotional sway or impact with their words and their opinions, their perspective. That number should be few, and everybody else that's outside of that circle, respectively, don't give a fuck.
Yes.
Because why? Why allow them that kind of authority over you? Who cares? Like, and the other thing is too is like, hey, I didn't get here because I was being normal and all cookie cutter and like I cared about my appearances and like what I was saying and what people thought. Like, no, fuck that. I got here because I'm weird or whatever, right?
Right. Own
Be
it.
weird.
Yeah.
Like, and just it is what it is, right? So, no, yeah, really, and that's how I see even the other family and everything. Like, don't blame them. I don't hate them. I don't want anything from them and anybody in my community or anybody online. Like, it's just, listen, it's about the issue. It's about everything that you're just talking about. Like, do I want my kids growing up in a society where dudes aren't out here, men that have been through it, they're not trying to protect kids by sharing their story, by being willing to take on all of this bullshit and just speak it out and destigmatize it. I want them to feel safe if anything ever happens to them, to come to somebody who can help them.
Yes.
And beyond that, my sons, I want them to be protectors, and that's my daughter too.
Yes.
Right. And to think that they would grow up in a world where I had every opportunity in front of me to not like to talk about the things that I talk about, whether it's in a uniform or my childhood or whatever, and that I was too fucking scared to do that. No, that's not how I want them to see me. I mean, they're going to see me however they see me. I can't really control that. But no, I want them to know that, like, yeah, no, dad was out here talking about these things and like maybe it's a little bit weird and stigmatized, but like he's trying to help people and we should try to help people. We should care. If you're out there and this has been hanging over you for your whole life, and I get it because all I wanted to do was play video games and drink and eat junk food and candy and just escape my reality because I was not content with the cards that I was dealt. We care. I care.
Yes.
I want you to crawl through that fucking river that I have already been through because I will be on the other side, bloody, just like you, fucking tired, just like you, ready to pull you out.
Yes.
And that's what we need. And we need real talk from dudes that are going to keep you accountable. My boy Brian, if I call him and I'm like, bro, I just got in a fight with my wife. I did this thing. I said the wrong words, whatever it might be, whatever situation is. If it's bullshit, Brian will roast me.
Yes.
He'll
Brian.
spend 5-10 minutes roasting the shit out of me.
We love you,
And it's
Brian.
amazing. Yeah, it's funny too. My God, like when I was, I'm down like 30 pounds or whatever since softwood underbelly. And I had already lost a little bit of weight. So the real story is I lost a bunch of weight. I lost 80 pounds. That was the summer before I did all this stuff. I gained back until I was like 230 sitting in that chair. And he watched the episode. And the first thing he said to me was like, good job. Proud of you. You look like Grimace.
No.
Yeah, he just nailed me.
The roast is on.
Yeah, dude. And it's like
10 million views.
I laugh really hard.
Don't let it go to your head, Nick.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it was amazing. And yeah, no, he was like, really, you think you're special now? Like, okay. And it was what I was, it's exactly what I needed. And he goes, hey man, you keep gaining weight like that. I know what you look like before all this. I'm gonna take that wheelbarrow, put you in it, and like wheel you out back and just shoot you, get it over with, because that's where you're going, right? It's like just unloading on me. It was amazing. It was
But that
so
works
funny.
for you. Yeah, that dynamic
But it
works
works for me.
you.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and on the other side, like he'll roast me, but also like he is very, he's never given me a bum steer. He's like way beyond his age as far as wisdom goes. It's incredible. As gentle when it is required as he is a roast master. But no, really, I mean, yeah. It's I finished that softwood underbelly video with don't struggle alone. And that's really what it is, because it doesn't, whatever you're going through is whatever you're going through. You don't have to be an alcoholic like me to have something that's really like messing you up every day. You don't have to have PTSD to like be bummed every once in a while or just feel stuck. You don't have to have this childhood that was fucked up to go through the things that normal humans go through. Like, speak it out. You're not alone. We're all going to struggle with something. We all have something. Speak it out. Find somebody. Find help. Understand you're not alone.
Yes, and complacency is not a place to live. And so many men and women We live in that state of mind, and life is trying to offer us something more. There is so much
Mhm.
more out here for people, and we can protect our people, our children, because the complacency, the avoidance, and the inability to deal with your own self is why things have gotten this way. Ladies and gentlemen, audience members, I don't
Mhm.
care what you call yourself. We are responsible for what is happening right now. We are responsible for what we're allowing to happen to our children, that we're looking the other way because we don't have the balls. Throw your damn
Mhm.
balls on the table. Whip them out. Because but it's necessary. Okay? You guys want to do a
Mhm.
dick measuring contest? Well, won't mean shit when you've left these children
Yeah.
out here and it gets worse and worse and worse. And then we just see the world burning and we say, well, because what? It happened to us and therefore
Mhm.
it's normalized? Most of us didn't get made into that, but we're seeing the population grow of idiots. So it's
Yeah.
time to say, here I am. Take a good damn look at yourself. Hold yourself accountable to a standard where you find the right people. There are people out here that want to help you. They want to help you be the best
Mhm.
version of yourself. They want to help you feel fully alive. So that, I think, is what it's going to take to change. Because where else does it start if we can't change ourselves?
Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree. Yeah, and that complacency, that self-mastery, like these are things that because on the topic of monsters, I kind of call myself a reformed monster. And it's an archetype that I've created. Like if you want to get philosophical or social work-y with it in terms of theory, based on a lot of the different greats, whether it's Aurelius, I write heavily from a theme of Heraclitus, Frankl, and it's this notion, when you engage in addiction, you make all the wrong choices, you become that monster. Your adversity, whether it's the trauma that you're running from, whatever it might be, that's your character forge. Because I think it all boils down to character. Like, what are we doing when we get rid of complacency? What are we doing when we grapple with addiction and try to better ourselves? Really, we're improving our character. And there's this great line from Heraclitus I think it's really profound. It's just a couple words. Character is destiny. So the God inside of your character that you cultivate or neglect through your daily actions, because it's every day, every little vice you engage in that becomes your default habit. Just as you start pursuing virtue, it's through acts that you get to that being your baseline habit. So the very fiber of your character is what you're trying to improve, and it will dictate where you end up. So it starts with the self, 100%. Really easy to get on that doom brick and spend an average of, 5.5 hours a day for Americans. Average life expectancy is 78 years in our country. That's like 17-ish years that we're just going to waste looking into a phone. And like, maybe
Right.
that's not the greatest thing to say in our business, but like, that's reality, right? Like,
Get
what's
off
your
the
screen time
internet.
looking like? Right.
I'll
Yeah.
meet you
Yeah.
in the streets.
Go away. Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
Yep.
I so appreciate everybody that listens. But no, really, it really does start with the self, and it's self-mastery, and it's facing your demons and earning the right to look at yourself in the eyes in the mirror. You know, you
Yes.
gotta, if you're a monster, you gotta be reformed. You gotta put that monster in the cage.
Oh, yes, you do. Let's lock it up and throw
Yeah.
away the key. Buried at the bottom of the sea. I'm a
Mhm.
poet and I know it. But thank you so much because you've spoken the truth.
As we close out today's episode of Alternative I Beyond the File, I want to extend a special thank you to Nick for the courage he shows in speaking on something so difficult, yet so necessary. These aren't easy conversations to have, but the truth is, so many men carry the weight of silence when it comes to experiences they never chose. And breaking that silence takes strength. Real strength. Nick, your willingness to share your story and stand in that space for others matters more than words can fully capture. To our listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, know that you're not alone. There is support, there is understanding, and there is a path forward. Thank you for listening, for keeping an open mind, and for being part of this space where we choose to see differently. Until next time, keep looking beyond the file.